Welcome to Emuna is our future. Is it worth it? That's the class statement with is it worth it? We're developing self-worth together in this Emuna class format, and I have the pleasure to sit here in Yerushalayim Kodesh, in the holy city of Jerusalem. We have to sometimes just think about how fortunate, Ashreinu Matov Chalkeinu, that we're in such a place and we're here together. And thank God the Wi-Fi is working. I'm not on Instagram Live this week, maybe next week. Took a little break from being too overwhelmed with all the different things going on. But we'll upload it to Instagram, hopefully, once we finish with the 20-minute or so class. Keeping it to that amount. Usually 10 minutes is about as much patience people has. But then there's also the opportunity for people to tune in, please God, and listen afterwards on the Anchor app, which goes out to all the podcast apps of Brez of Israel. And that's who we have to thank right at the beginning of the class, our host, Rav Shalom Arush. And what an honor we had last week with the Q&A. I think everybody gained from it. I think everyone was able to tune in and get that inspiration they were looking for. So I ask all of you to keep giving their feedback and encouragement, because it was, thank God, over 50 comments and definitely around 30,000 listeners and viewers to hear Nissan Black with his Rav Shalom Arush sat here, and Nissan Black was here. We have Rav Dayan Elgrod, and I was over there, the MC. And there was opportunity in this beautiful studio in Chutz Chesed in Brez of Israel to be able to give over how it matters for the black community, the love, and living in Eretz Yisrael, and all the other wonderful questions that were asked and answered. And we're going to continue in that flow, in that kind of energy of, please God, of Emuna and questions and answers, because I think it was very, very positive the way everybody was able to feel from the Rav at a late night. I remember he'd already done 3 Q&As, 3 such sessions in 3 different languages, in Hebrew and French and Spanish. And so we're sitting at the end of the night, it was midnight basically, Midnight Rabbi, that was my old name. We were tuning in to the Emuna teachings together in this studio and getting the clarity we need during this coronavirus challenge to go ahead. So I invite you every week on a Tuesday night, 11 p.m. Please God, the Rav should be healthy, everyone should pray. Rav Dayan Elgrod should be able to be there, myself, and please God, we're open to guests. Right now, Nissan Black was our first guest, and going ahead, please God, we'll have all kinds of special people who will come here. We're talking to Rabbi Yonatan Galed, one of our rabbis over here in the Brez of English. We hope will continue. Had a little bit delay with his teachings. Please God, you guys keep giving the feedback, encouragement that will give him the motivation to make it happen with the Brez of Israel team. And then we have also, please God, on a very easy way, Rav Algrad can ask him questions. He's going to be here translating so beautifully. And then, please God, the heavens are open. Like, you guys have to send me your feedback, what you want. Who would you like to be a special guest? There's so many good people around in Yerushalayim and in the Holy Land. And please God, beyond, because we're looking forward to this coronavirus, even though there seems to be some sort of second spike right now, will suddenly start to go back down, please God. And we'll be able to go ahead for the following time period with more open airways, so people can come and visit Yerushalayim, and the doors will open again to the airports and to all the people who want to learn and be here, for the tourists, and all the opportunities are available in the holy Jerusalem. I have the merit to walk around and sit here now and talk to you guys from. We have the opportunity on a weekly level to tune in and to connect. So I ask all of you guys a few things. 1, send me your feedback, your question and answers, and keep tuning in, sharing the Emuna love. And one of the reasons why we're going to talk about these asks I'm having today is because we're developing self-worth. Self-worth, believing in yourself, having that Emuna atzmi, as it says in the Holy Svarim from Sodik, is something which is a very big challenge. For example, right now, today is Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. Rosh Chodesh Tammuz is the first day of the month, the Jewish month of Tammuz, and the non-Jewish calendar are some way near the end of June. But in the general Hebrew, in our calendar, in the calendar that goes all the way back from the first day of creation and all the way till the climax of creation, with please God, with the Yom Shekulah Shabbos that we're waiting for so eagerly, that we are in a place right now, an energy of Tammuz. This is the 3 months leading to the climax of this Jewish year of Tafshin Pei. Tafshin Peh, the mouth, how powerful the mouth is. Teheshanas Panasa, it should be a year of Panasa. Imagine 2020 should be a year of making success. It's like we spoke about in last week's class. And thankfully, we got a lot of good energy from people about last week's class, the idea of Emuna riches, to really have that peaceful energy, especially right now where the rest of the world now has entered into Parshas Koirach. Koirach is a time where we have to stay away from machlokas, from arguments. We have to learn from him, and there's no bigger matter when it comes to money matters, how to avoid machlokas. That is the challenge. And that's part of what we're going to talk about, that there has to be challenges. We're in the coronavirus challenge, the epidemic, pandemic, however you want to call it. But at the same time, there's so many other challenges on the inner level. So much stuff is going on personal feelings and how a person feels about themselves, how they feel mentally and emotionally, and how they function on a spiritual level. It's all very connected. It's all one concept. So I ask all of you guys to please bear with me and to understand that these concepts are something which I myself, on my own inner level, are struggling with on a daily level. And I think that reality is really important, because the fact that it's such a personal thing, that no one has it solved, everyone's going through it on some level, and it's not just something that you can say, it's just for those guys over there or those guys. Remember, there's a whole racial divide going on in the world. What equalizes us, we're all human, and we're all going through inner struggle. Every single person, the human struggle to overcome all the negativity, to overcome the bad voices, the self-esteem issues. Everyone's equalized on these things, and that's one of the fascinating points when I tune in to podcasts like from Tony Robbins or Tim Ferriss, or all the names out there like Tom Billy, and then we have Lewis Howes, who I listened to today, and even Joe Rogan with all his funniness over there. So you have that energy of people out there, but there's what equalizes humankind. You hear again and again on all these podcasts is the need to grow, the growth mindset, the idea of struggle. There's that certain mindfulness that's going on in the world, this awareness that we need to have change, social change, however it works. And that's why it was very appropriate having this in black here last week, and going ahead now with this class was where we're trying to understand that, is it worth it? Yeah, it matters. We do matter. We have worth. And that self-worth is the key to not be hating on anyone, not to be arguing, not to cause any of the strife and the upheaval that's going on in the world. If you have that self-worth, that understanding the value of who you are and what you achieve in the world. Now let's just stop for a second. We spoke already 2 weeks ago with the branding class, maybe 3 weeks, and we spoke about the concept of unity inspired projects. And we said, but my personal brand, and everyone has to find and develop their own, that can be a big key to self-worth. Because every person himself is trying to figure out from the level of thought, how you think about life. It's very important that affects your actions. So the way you think, to think in a more unified way, and that's personally my branding, the idea of that everything flows. I have my podcast, Unity Flow podcast, and the relationship podcast. We're going to upgrade them a little bit soon, hopefully, and you guys can tune in with the Brez of Israel podcast, all our 3 podcasts. This flow that goes on in the realm of thought, so then we can express that through inspiration. That's the idea of the unity inspires, through the way we speak. So we spoke about this already, but the concept is that we don't value enough these thoughts that we're having, these inner struggles that we're having. We don't value how much emotional energy goes into overcoming what seemingly right now is holding us back. We don't give ourselves enough credit. And that's something which is really sad. Like I myself, going through, the age transition from being my first 20 years in London and secular. We spoke about once a few times in my story, and I didn't grow up religious, so very traditional, or maybe not so traditional. My wife maybe was more traditional than me, but it was the idea of that North London, entertainment, cool social lifestyle. I got some cool pics, for me back in the day, and then coming back to here to Eretz Yisrael around when I was 18, 19, and then making that last 20 years of Baruch Hashem, living in the Holy Land and transforming and becoming part of the Jewish Torah world and being connected to righteous people, just making sure hygiene, and being able to go through that 20-year process or more. It's actually been 22, I would say, but let's say just putting it into blocks. So now I'm at 40 years, they've got the next 20 years ahead. You start to think, well, what have I accomplished? You start to say, have I got that self-worth? The midlife crisis starts sneaking in, get few grey hairs, start to feel maybe not as, hunky, like for a man, like you like to feel like a little bit more, healthy and strong and, physically, able to push yourself beyond. And then you start to realize maybe you're starting to get a few limitations. Life starts to transition a little bit. So when you're going through these changes, and in each person in their own way, you start to realize that the next 20 years ahead, the key is that you've got to get in tune with what is your self-worth from a true perspective, not from some external, like what do other people say about me, how popular am I online, or all this kind of, I don't want to say a rude word, but this rubbish, that's the English way of saying it, this stuff that's not really truth, that's not really important, and your measuring stick starts to become more clarified. And that's a very important key for our generation right now, because we are all going through tremendous struggles with the world changing outside, and we're trying to work, please God, together here on our Emuna path and our spirituality and how to be practical in our daily life. We've spoken a lot about this last few weeks, but now say let's internalize that right now there's an opportunity within all of us, and to go beyond, out of this realm of just sitting in the studio. There's ability for each person to go beyond themselves, to enter into a new phase of life, a new phase of time. Like I said, that this is the 3 months before the end of this year. This is a time which Hashem gives us a gift, not to just have a nice day on the beach, which, nothing wrong with that, but there's an opportunity during these 3 months to really spiritualize the end of the year, the climax of the year, to really get focused in on what our purpose is, what our goals are. So all the things we're talking about in all our Emuna is our future classes start to actually be internalized and become more defining on our self-esteem and self-worth. This is the challenge that everyone on some level is going through. And like I know myself, all the days and every day, there's this inner battle. Like you start to say, well, look, we did this big class last week. But the world's quick, internet's moving, so what? So Nissan Black spoke, we made segments, we organized it and all the different subjects with the Rav and seeing the Rav and the student, and beautiful, beautiful experience. But then life moves quick because you're already on to the next thing, like you're already, online, there's already the next news share, the next class, everything is so quick, and the next news, breaking news, and the world's constantly restructuring itself, and suddenly there's like new fires going on. Now it's not just America, the whole world's experiencing this overhaul and this upheaval, and everyone's talking about it. So like suddenly you start to feel like I'm just some small little voice amongst this whole big thing, and all the famous people have what to say, and all the big thought leaders, and you start to say, well, okay, so I'm just some little schmuck, I've got to just survive, make my little bit of money if I can, and even that's being challenged, and even the little bit of money I want to make and live on in a humble way, even that's, so you start to feel like, well, what am I worth? What is this worth? And that was the thought. That is the day. That is now the challenge. Today, Tammuz, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, is the concept, and it says in the Holy Arizal that every month, we jump from the world to the Arizal Lahavdu. The Arizal says in every month there's a hidden form of the Shem Havaya, of the way Hashem, his name, God himself, gave over his name as a gift to us. It was in Mitzrayim originally with Moshe Rabbeinu, and he was Megala his name to us. And that in itself is a part of the whole redemption of mankind, that we have a connection to godliness in a real way. We're able to have that intimate relationship through name and through connection, through being able to bind ourselves on a thought and speech and action level to godliness through the Torah mitzvahs and through the way we speak and pray, to bind ourselves up into that oneness. So that was a gift that Hashem gave through the Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's very deep concepts when we start looking at the name of God, what it means, how the Yud is mashpia to the Hey, is influencing the Hey. The Yud is like the seminal aspect, the Chochmah, and it's mashpia to the Bina, and then it comes down into the Vov, into the Hey, and that's the whole idea of all the different, the way it's Tishtalshalis, or it's called the different transcending, worlds into this world, and how Hashem's constantly creating this world. Very deep concepts in Kabbalah and Panemius and inner level. You start to understand when you're talking to God and you're saying this name of God, Adon HaKol, is the master of everything, he was, he will be. You're tapping into something which is so spiritually profound and so deep. And then there's all these ideas of Emuna, it's just like, it's not like there's no questions. Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it. Everything becomes worth it and focused in. And who was the one who said it isn't worth it? Who's the famous enemy, arch enemy of not just the Jewish people, the world. Like people say, oh, Hitler must, he must have been really bad for the world, for this. So, but really, he was bad for the Jewish people. It wasn't just a Jewish problem, it was a world problem. That such a person of such a mindset that was against godliness, against all these beautiful values and truths that we stood for on an inner level, not just the external aspects that we're Jewish, physically, that we're a race. But that's not the point. It's the inner concepts that there was a war going on that level. And that goes all the way back to Hitler, his great-great-grandfather, if you trace him back through Amalek, all the way back to Haman. Haman said, Zeh eina shoveli. That's in the Megillah. He said, this isn't worth anything. It said Da'arizo. These are the 4 letters, Zeh eina shoveli, which have in them the name of Hashem, Zeh, Hey, and then the Vav, Zeh, Eino, Shova, which is a Hey, and then the Li is a Yud. If you take the last letter of each of those 4 words, Zeh, Eino, Shova, Li, you have the Yud, Ke, Vav, Ke spelled backwards, Hey, Vav, and a Hey, Yud. He's taking the name of Hashem and he's turning it around to the opposite direction and bringing down judgment and bringing down negativity to say that nothing's worth anything for me. That is Haman, but where's it being spoken in? How's it being spoke? Well, how's the truth of creation? What's the oneness, the unifying principle of everything Rav Arush teaches in the Garden of Emuna? And all the Garden of Emuna books are bringing this out again and again, and all our spoders and all our guidance over here sitting in the studio to remind ourselves that it's all with divine providence, that even Haman himself, even Hitler, they're all part of the name of Hashem, they're all part of the Gilui of Hashem, they're all part of the revelation that there's one God, and they wouldn't exist if Hashem didn't allow them, for however we understand that. Once again, this week's Parsha, Chukas, so we don't know. Chukas means it's something which is beyond understanding. That in itself is a very, very big reassuring concept, that we don't always understand stuff. It's okay for you and me to not to always understand everything we're doing, to be able to be humble and say, look, I don't know. And it's okay. It's okay to realize that some things are beyond our understanding, that you don't know why the coronavirus came, we don't know why the Holocaust, we don't know a lot of things, yeah? We don't know why people, God forbid, die of all these diseases, God forbid, and all these challenges, and the fact that there are people that want to hurt another person. We don't understand, but we do have some understanding how we cannot be like that we do have ways to get ourselves through the Torah, through the mitzvahs, to be more clear in our challenge of avodas Hashem, of what it means to be a servant of God, that we're not something separate to that experience of godliness, that everything that goes on, that even when the voices, as my wife was talking to me today, she didn't mind me sharing this, that even when you have these voices of discouragement and these voices of doubt and these voices that say that you're not worth nothing, yeah, this is where all the battle goes on the inner level. There's so much energy needed to overcome this. I was just listening to Lewis Howes with Mel Robbins. She's another famous person out there, and she was saying the same thing, like this, it's a concept, that we're all fighting these self-doubts. Doesn't matter how big, like you listen to one famous person after another person, how much they were scared of themselves failing, and even if they managed to succeed, they still doubt themselves. And all of us, in our own way, doubt Hashem, doubt that we're going to have the Panasa. All the time, these doubts. This is all this force of Amalek, of Haman, testing us, and it's from Hashem. That's the funniest thing. It's Ze'ein Shoveli is with Hashem's name backwards, but we turn it around to Yismechu Hashemayim Sagal Haaretz. We turn it around so that the heavens will rejoice and the lands will rejoice. Everything will be joyful. Everything will be good. How? How do we turn around the judgments? How do we turn these next 3 months that are more like, say, seemingly judgmental times because it's the end of the year, and did we use the year properly in preparing for the Yom Adin, Rosh Hashanah, and we don't even know if we're going to be in Ummah, and we don't know this, and we don't know that. How do we turn it around to a time of mercy, a time of positivity? How do we end off 2020 not worried about who's going to be the president of America, whether it's going to be Trump or Biden? How do we tune into our life where we're not worried about how we're going to survive as a human race, when there seems to be such a falling of seemingly of like this police, lack of control, of self-control, of justice, of all these like things that seem to be failing. The whole system, as it says in the Gemara, the political system will become corrupt. This was all promised in the Chazal. Everything that's happening right now, the Chazal, the Rabbonim, the sages foresaw. So it wasn't just like, we're standing at this generation like, and all these random things are happening. This was part of the history of mankind that was foreseen from our holy sages. So then we don't have to take it so personally. It's not personal that you're having a hard time. It's not personal that you're having these inner struggles. It's not personal you're having these doubts and worries. It's nothing personal. You're good. You're doing an amazing thing. You are on a path of Emuna. We're all together. You won't be listening to me otherwise. We're on a path of Emuna. We're on a path of spirituality. We're on a path of practical growth, of growth mindset, of healthiness. Anyone who listens to me, that's all I'm about. That's all I've been doing for the last 20 years. And that stands for itself. And the fact that I'm connected to such good people like Nissim Black, my holy brother, and Rav Arush, and my own Rabbi, the Tolner Rebbe, and all the other good people that I've invested in my own family back in England, thank God. All the good people that we're surrounded by, these are our sphere of influence. These are the people that we surround ourselves with, the people we're most connected to on a daily level. My wife, Bliana, this holy woman that I'm blessed to marry, and I thank Hashem, like we spoke about a few classes back, we thank Hashem for all these good gifts in our life. That even as crazy as the world seems to be out there, that when you look into your own personal situation, there's so much good, and that's just over the people around you. Imagine inside, all the jewels, all the jewels, all the gems, all the, like the Rav has these books, Emuna gems, all this Emuna inside, all these wonderful treasure troves of energy and abilities and fights and struggles and wars that you've had and battles that you've had with your inner doubts, with the Haman, with their inner Shoveli. Someone says to me, "Oh, you're looking too much at the camera." They find all these critics. Like, I've got the phone here. But when we had Rav Arush, Baruch Hashem, we had 5 cameras. He had a whole team here. Everything was like the best. So I could say to myself, I have to come and my little camera. I don't even have Instagram Live, and I've been waiting for this Wi-Fi. And all the voices come. And what do we say? We say, no, this is Shoveli. This is worth it. This is worth it for me. This month, this next time period, everything I do, it has value. Every single class, every single post, every single moment of connection with a person online, every single connection with a child, with every moment with the family, with the friends, every moment is worth something. Even if it's a more struggled point, it's a time of bit of pain, or there's it doesn't work out so good. Like the voices, some of the people out there aren't so positive. Like my wife was telling me, sometimes people are a bit critical and they don't even mean to be. They're just not sensitive. And that gives us an opportunity to always be encouraging. Rak chazak mi'amatz, as it says by Moshe to Yeshua, to all the way to all the Jewish people, all the way till now, that we should only give chizuk, encouragement and strength to people around us. We should only say good things. Thank God there are some good people out there. Lewis Howes is an example. Take him as one of our not Jewish friends, that he's able to constantly give positive encouragement to everyone that comes on his show. He's not making fun of people or making them feel silly or something. He's giving constant encouragement, and that in itself makes him a good person. And there's so many other good people out there, and there's such good energy if you just tune in. You don't have to be a slave to the media, as Nissim Black just posted on Twitter. You don't have to be. He didn't even remember who he quoted it from, but the point is, that's the point. You don't have to tune in to the media every day and be stuck by all their negativity. You have the true voice within. That's like, I remember Dror Moshe Kasuto used to sit here, well, not in this studio, because Baruch Hashem, this is new, but downstairs somewhere, or maybe in the building over there. Yeah, he used to sit on the top floor, he used to come visit. And he'd talk about constantly believing in that inner voice within, and I'm sure he's still talking about it till now. I haven't listened to him so much recently, just been busy. Lots of other, Baruch Hashem, very good speakers out there, Ravi Jacobson, and, I've mentioned all the good names, Charlie Orari. We just had a great story that he spoke about Rav Arush. But anyway, that inner voice from within, to find your voice, to become yourself a speaker, to be able to speak to Hashem, to speak to yourself, to speak to the people you love with confidence, so you've got something worth saying. And not only that, and this will be the climax of our class today because we've gone on a bit longer, but the idea of action, that it should bring us to positive deeds, all these classes we're doing together, the goal is to get to positive deeds. You have opportunities, always put below, usually some sort of link to donate, to connect to the Rav, or to be involved in our projects. I have my own personal projects. I've got a collaboration album coming out, and Tu B'Av, and we have Eliezer Kosman, who Baruch Hashem putting out some of his Emuna music, and we've got some other guys who are showing, giving them opportunities to tune in a little bit. Thank God we have the drill going on in the background. Everything is good. The point is that we have the power within to tune in to that inner voice that's good, and not just that, but to speak it out, and not just that, to act on it, to tune into that self-worth on a real way, on a strong way, to be strong with ourselves, and realize that all those times, like Stephen Covey says, what's the key to happiness? Is self-restraint. And I would say that most of that now is a mental wellness, is that inner battle to say it does matter. What matters is our inner self, we're good, that intrinsically we're good people, and all the world is good, and we could draw out those good values so we can lead the world to a positive place together as humankind. And the Jewish people have a role in that. We've been so, in an obvious way, so fundamental in creation, hopefully in a positive way. There's obviously been some I don't even know how to say it, like people that have fallen away from the true path from our own people and created a lot of, things that we're dealing with right now still till this day. But the point is, no matter what, that even from there we can bring up the good from it. Everything has some good point that we're trying to bring to the world, and that everybody in itself has that inner voice of self-worth. So I give you all a blessing. We should all find that self-worth. We should be able to turn around all the arguments of koirach and chukas to understand we don't understand everything, but it's okay because we have that inner worth that we can do what we need to do, speak what we need to speak, have positive thoughts and understand the struggles we have within are all part of the process to become this is shoveli, that this is worth it, and we turn around these days ahead into a very positive time. Prepare us, please God, for a new year to come of only blessing and good health, and please God, a good Shabbos this week, and everything good that everyone wants. Amen. Thank you for tuning in. Please share on. Thank you. All the best. See you next week. Remember, we have our Emuna class from Rav Arush, 11 o'clock Tuesday weekly, the QA, and you guys can send your questions to the email below in the link, eli.goldsmith@breslev.co.il. And I thank you again for tuning in and wish you all the blessings. Have a good one. Bye.